Hi class. So in this video I just want to briefly talk to you about why it's so important that we combine ethics with technical communication, and we don't just talk about technical communication outside of ethics. In order to try and show you this, I'm going to introduce one of the most visceral articles I know on the topic, an article called The Ethic of Expediency, Classical Rhetoric, Technology, and the Holocaust by Stephen Katz. It was written in 1992, and it generally is considered one of the standards of this topic of technical communication and ethics. However, this is a very disturbing article in many ways. It analyzes a memo that was written by the Nazis that discusses the extermination of people. So with that in mind, you are under no obligation to watch this video. I primarily created the video because I think that offers some valuable insight into why ethics is so essential to technical communication. But with that being said, again, you're not obligated to watch it or to study this article. If you are still with me, I would like to recommend that you go ahead and download a copy of the article and take a look at the memo first, because we're going to follow along with Katz and look at some of his analysis of it. In order to do that, you can go to this PDF. I'll put up a link on the screen, and yeah, just pause the video and take a look at it first. So now we're going to go ahead and follow along with some of Katz's analysis of this article. The first thing that's important to point out, as Katz does, is that the memo is actually technically written effectively and following typical standards for technical communication. He makes this argument primarily on pages 256 and 257, but he notes such things as the fact that the memo starts off with a statement of agreement to show what the purpose is and to look towards agreed upon goals, that it uses effective document design by putting spaces between paragraphs, by numbering different items to help readers follow along, that it ends with a recommendation, and that the recommendations throughout are built using standard rhetorical argument constructions. But he also goes on to say on page 257 that the main problem then with this memo is not that it fails in terms of style or grammar or just any of the technical construction of it. It fails because it is too technical, too logical, and that does not attend to the actual purpose of the memo. What he says is that this author, in trying to meet an ethic of expediency says that the technical end of something is really the thing through which we judge it. Is it able to achieve its goal? Yes, this memo is probably very successful at achieving its goal of making changes to the vans that were used to exterminate people. But is that a goal that is worth pursuing, is what he argues. So he says that this narrow focus that characterizes the technical writing is taken to the extreme here, but in doing so is applied to the mass destruction of human beings. There are two more important things to note here. Down at the bottom of page 257, we can see that Katz says that it is typical for writers to adopt the ethos of their organization. In effect, this means that the goals and style of writing is often taken from the organization that you work for. He continues on page 258 to discuss the style of this memo. He discusses it as stuffy. And what this style particularly does is that it shifts responsibility from the writer to the organization. The question, though, remains whether or not this writer actually is responsible for the recommendations that he makes. The answer I think that all of us would probably give is that yes, he is still responsible for making these recommendations, and that it is his ethical responsibility to not follow through with these recommendations. So basically, the important takeaway here is that an ethic that puts achieving a predetermined goal as the primary value behind communication, and an ethic that does not investigate or consider what that goal is and whether or not it is a goal worth pursuing, is one that can put people at risk, that can lead to unethical actions, to actions that we do not want to happen. Katz goes on to mention a number of other examples, less extreme than this memo, but still ones in which people were hurt or killed as the result of expedient communication. He also says that expediency itself is not the enemy necessarily. That is not that we need to do away with any sorts of communication that are able to achieve their goals effectively. Rather, what he says is that having expediency be the only goal, be the only thing which we measure these communications on, becomes problematic when it starts to conflict with human rights and human lives. So, I hope that this helps to show a little bit of why it's so important to consider ethics in technical communication. And I hope that this article was enlightening to you.